to get something very pragmatic and that works and that has a good sound and that is available for a lot of people and they can start making music from the beginning. That is, a very good start as a company, and so I was always attached to that.
I think design is one of the most important aspects of any instrument, really. What you're faced with, that's the interface you've got to work with. And if you don't feel comfortable, or if you feel a little bit kind of wary about what you're doing with it, that can be a real inhibition, I think. And so I think, the design of the control panel of any synth is really, really important.
So Peak is 8 voices, which classically means 8 notes, but depending on the way the unison modes are used, and you might use more than one voice at a time. Each voice is effectively a stereo voice. So we've got something in there called stereo spread. So as you play, you gradually get this really wide sound. Each voice is comprised of 3 oscillators, and each oscillator, they're identical, and you've got a choice of your standard synth waveforms from sine, tri, square, saw. We have shape control of those, so typically shape on a square wave as pulse width. I think most people are familiar with that. But we've got shape on the sine wave, which brings in 2 different types of distortion, depending on whether you use it positively or negatively. We can shape the triangle wave, which does wave folding, which almost sounds like oscillator sync, but it's quite a subtly different, but in my opinion, a nicer sound. And shape on the sawtooth changes the phase of the saws, so you can use an LFO on that to effectively get more than one sawtooth out of your sawtooth. It's something that's kind of classic Novation technique that we used to call double saw. And then we're into 17 different wavetables as well. And they cover things from electric piano type waveforms through to vocal wows and yeahs and that sort of thing. From your oscillators, you go into the mixer section where you can also bring in a noise source. Going back to the oscillators, we've got FM, so frequency modulation paths between some of the oscillators, so they're going around robin. So oscillator 1 can affect oscillator 2, oscillator 2 to oscillator 3, oscillator 3 back to oscillator 1. Noise can affect oscillator 1, noise to the filter, and oscillator 3 to the filter frequency as well. And you can set these up in the mod matrix if you want to, so you can dynamically change them with an LFO or aftertouch or any other modulator if you're choosing.
One of the main strengths of Peak is actually the whole modulation section. In a way, I always was wondering how much of a work it is to actually, once the LFO is there, why don't you use it for all sorts of steps in the sound creating process, so that you can actually say, oh, I want to have the LFO not here, I want to have it like right after the oscillator signal, in a way. And I think that's wonderful, and that makes it so much diverse, that you can actually create different chains of signal.
The filter is a classic state variable filter. It's the same topology that we use in the base station. It's the same topology that Chris has used as far back as, say, the Oscar. The Wasp was also a state variable. So that's got high pass, low pass and band pass filter types. Self-resonant, we've got 12 dB and 24 dB per octave slopes. We've got pre-filter distortion and post-filter distortion. They sound quite different. They sound radically different, in fact, I would say. So it's nice to be able to mix and match the 2 of those. And we've got 3 envelopes. One's your amplitude envelope, your amp env, and the other 2 are mod ems, but in the mod matrix. And in fact, even on the front panel, you can assign the amp env to some mod duties. So if you want to do simple sounds, like a simple monosynth sound, then you can do it straight from the front panel. Just assign the filter envelope choice to amp env and use that.
So with the FPGA technology, what it allows you to do is have this kind of flexibility in the digital parts of the synthesizers, so particularly in the NCOs, the oscillators, and the digital effects. Where all the filtering and the kind of VCA and distortion paths are kept analog, that's keeping actually a lot of the hard work that needs to be done in digital polysynths. That takes it out of all the processing. So all this processor has to do is oscillators and effects. Effects are fairly intense, but you've still got all of that room that was taken up by your filtering and all of that and the distortion. You've got it there to use. So the beauty of the technology within Peak is that you can get these really interesting sounds from the oscillators being like wave shaped and things like that, and being used with wavetables. You can get all of these very interesting harmonic structures and things, and you can get those to shift very easily with the LFOs. But then also having the effects on the back end going back into the FPGA, it just makes it kind of like this really, really nice thing to use. It's hard to kind of explain because you have a level of simplicity there by actually having this hybrid architecture. It's simply taking the technology that works best and putting that in one case, getting it all to talk to one another in terms of the sections, and it just works.
And then you're into the effects section where we've got chorus, delay, and reverb. And the reverb's a lovely modulated reverb. It's got a lot of width, yeah, just a lot of character.
I actually spoke to Danny recently, and I said, "Man, the reverb, that sounds so awesome. And where is that? Like, why is that?" And he said, "Yeah, it's because it's on this chip that has this high resolution." And you totally sense that. I mean, it's you could hear in the track that we recorded, you can hear the bass drum that, you know, does like the. And then you hear like this steady